We're going to cover the panel saw today. My name is Mike Antonelli. By the way, it was manufactured just south of here in Kennesaw, Georgia. So made in the USA, I'm proud to say. So the panel saw is an ideal tool to cut large panels, 4x8 and even 5x8 sheets down to manageable sizes. After you cut down to a manageable size, you should do the rest of your cuts on the table saw. Even though this is very accurate cutting, you can just cut a little bit larger and then do your finished cuts on the table saw. Like any other saw, you need to fully control the stock until the blade comes to a complete stop. We have set minimum sizes of stock for both vertical and horizontal. These sizes are before you make your cut. The vertical minimum is 18 inches wide, and the reason being is so that you can catch these, put this in here, is so that you can catch these two rollers so that the stock doesn't fall in. The horizontal minimum is 6 inches wide, which is measured from the bottom up. So anytime you're doing a horizontal cut, the measurement is from the bottom up, because this is the base point that you're working with. So it doesn't matter if you're cutting a 3 or a 4 foot piece. If you want to cut 20 inches off of that piece, it's going to be from here up. Okay. Thickness is 3/8 inch minimum. If you go below 3/8 inch and you want to cut 1/4 inch stock, then you have to get permission from the shop manager. The reason for that is if you're doing a horizontal cut with a 1/4 inch piece of stock, when you cut through, that 1/4 inch piece is going to fall down and catch the blade. So you need one person controlling it from one end and another person controlling it from the other end for safety reasons. So we want to talk about rotating the saw on the carriage. You want to lock it in place with the two wing nuts on either side. So that'll keep the carriage from moving on you. And in order to rotate the carriage, I guess you need to get on that side. Pull the two black knobs out and turn it. Once you turn it, and just release the knobs, and then turn the whole carriage by hand. And now you're locked in place to do a horizontal cut. And you can see by the arrow that it's telling you to feed the wood from right to left. We want to cut this 18 inches. We're feeding from right to left. We're going to use the upper indicator. And we are right on 18 inches. So when you're going from right to left, you're going to use the upper marker. And when you're going from left to right, you're going to use the lower marker. Okay, so we are in the right direction. We're going to open our blast gate, turn the saw on, and that's all there is to it. If you wanted to feed it from left to right, we pull these again, turn it this way. Now it's gonna lock in the vertical position when you do that. So you're going to have to pull the pins again, turn it. Okay. Now we're feeding from left to right. Okay. Now, where do you take your measurement where do you take your measurement when you're feeding from left to right and right to left? Because it's different because of the fact that the saw blade is not in the center of the carriage. And you can see by looking at it that the center is here and the saw blade is lower than center. So when you're going from left to right, you're going to use the lower indicator painted in red for your measurement. So if we were going to wanted to cut a 38-inch piece, we would just move that up to 38 inches. Lock your carriage in place, and now you're ready to rip. So at that point, you would turn the saw on, feed your material through. So now let's show you the reason. Let's show you the reason why we have an 18-inch minimum for vertical cuts. Because now we're sitting firmly on these two rollers. If it was less than that and you had a piece of material in there like that, you don't have anything to support this side. So for safety purposes, that's going to work real good. The position of the saw at that point is going to be with your controls at the top. So turn it this way, and now you're ready. And now you're ready for vertical cut. Of course, these have to be loosened, of course. Let's demonstrate how to take a measurement. So normally you would get your sheet goods right here. It makes sense just to load it right onto the saw on this side, okay? And then you can take your measurement on the other side of the saw. So going from right to left, you're going to use this tape down here for your measurement. If you were going from left to right, you would use this tape for your measurement. So we're going from right to left because we fed it in from this side, okay? So let's say we want a 19-inch piece. Bring your plywood right up to 19 inches. You don't have to compensate for the kerf of the blade. It's already factored in. So all you have to do is line your board up with the measurement you want and then make your cut. So let's demonstrate that. Wait till the blade stops. Bring your carriage back up. You have tape measure? "19 inches. It's about as accurate as your eyes are to the tape. So if you can line it up properly on the tape, you're going to get the exact cut that you want. But as we stated earlier, you want to cut your material a little proud, 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, take it to the table saw and do your finished cut on the table saw. The main thing is that if you're not sure how to use the saw, ask for help. That's with any equipment in the shop. In addition to the on-duty mentor, some of the instructors that are really familiar with this saw that you could go to would be Sal Lavigny, myself, Mitch Hubblebank, Jim Bedient, Nick Demona, Neil White, and Jim Scott. So those are some of the people you would look for if you had a question about using the saw. You would get less tear out, even though we have a fine cutting blade on here. You get less tear out if you place your material with be facing to the rear, okay, which would be against here. Make sure your material lays flat against the saw, okay, because we don't have the hold down on the saw like we had on the older panel saw. Double check your dimensions before you cut, and when finished, clean up and close the blast gate, of course. Okay, we're gonna cut a thin piece of stock, 1/4 inch, so that we can demonstrate why you need 2 people to do that. So obviously we're going from right to left. So the first thing we want to do is turn the carriage. Arrow in the right direction, going right to left. And we want to cut about a 17-inch piece. Keep in mind the 17 inches is from the bottom to the top. And we're going right to left. We're going to use this indicator right here. And that is 17 right there. Lock the wing nuts down. Open the blast gate. So the reason we're using 2 people to cut thin stock like this is when you cut through it, it's wobbling around, it's flopping around, there's nothing to secure it. So you have one person pushing it through, the other person on the other end receiving both pieces, so that we can control it so that the piece you cut off doesn't fall back into the saw. So that's the main point. So we're going to demonstrate that right now. We're locked in place, the blast gate is on, and we're going to start right now. So now, Doug had full control of that piece that we cut. I cut the saw off, and that's the safe way to do it. You'll notice we have these white panels on here, and the reason we put them on there is because when you're cutting stock of different sizes, sometimes you run into a problem with the piece that you're cutting falling through. So Jim Bedient was gracious enough to put these white panels in for us, and it's not only functional, but it also looks nice. So we want to thank Jim Bedient for that. That's all.